Hello. I just wanted to go over our second assignment. This is our second recording. Welcome. I hope everything is going well. If you didn't get a chance to see the first recording, my name's Elizabeth Brown, and I'm the instructor for the online course. So your second assignment, you're going to be earning a literary criticism badge. So I wanted to just go over very quickly some of the particulars and then show you a sample piece of writing to help you. And this is also will be posted along with a PowerPoint. I'm going to be honest. I've tried to do the PowerPoint a few times and it wasn't coming out. So I've just jotted down some quick notes that are in the PowerPoint. What I'll do is share my screen and show you the writing and go through it a little bit. And I think that will probably be more helpful anyway than staring at a PowerPoint. So, but the PowerPoint will be posted in the video recording. Um, so the first thing you want to do is when you're writing, make sure when you write about literature, you want to write in the present tense. So just make sure with your verbs, you have all the verbs are in present tense. So, you past tense, obviously your verbs are going to have ed at the end. So make sure that you keep them in the present tense. On the PowerPoint, there's examples that might help you as well with that. You don't want to include too many quotes, so you want there to be a nice balance of direct quotes that you've taken from the story, like weaved into your ideas. So your ideas are what's important, and so that's why I really think, unless this doesn't work for you, but I do strongly recommend you try to write a draft and just get your ideas down. The draft, you shouldn't be worried about grammar, just a very rough sketch of your ideas about whatever story you've chosen and what slant you're going to be taking. So with those things already in mind, so I have my short story and I really like the feminist kind of approach to it. So I've already taken some notes on that particular literary criticism or theory. And I've taken some quotes out that I'm going to use. I've got like 3 or 4. I have a few from the story, the short story. I have a few from the my feminist, theorist or theory. So I'm ready to go. So I'm just going to write down my ideas and then after go through when you're cleaning up and see where the quotes from the story will fit in. Okay. I guess my point is it's really important to write a draft in this case, even if it's only 1 to 2 pages still. I think because you're doing a very close reading and it's a very focused kind of a piece. It's not a general summary. So whenever you're, looking at literature in a very diagnostic kind of way, where it's almost like deconstructive. So it's you're sort of taking pieces out that are that you will be able to support your idea about the story. If you think of yourself maybe like a lawyer, so you have a case coming up and you need to get the pertinent information, just the right words, verbiage, quotes to support your argument. Okay, so and I think when I go over my piece of writing, it'll be more clear for you too. Also, you want to make sure you have the APA formatting. So we went over that. That's why we had that for our first assignment. Make sure you have in-text citations. So there shouldn't be anything from the short story taken directly from the short story that isn't in quotation marks. You can paraphrase and put things in your own words. It should be mostly your ideas based on your interpretation, supported with those quotes. And again, when we look at my writing, I'll be able to show that to you, and you can refer to it as when you're writing your own piece as well. That's really all I want to say about it right now. Again, I'll have the PowerPoint posted for you. And remember, this is just 1 to 2 pages, and that's not including the reference page. So it's short. You want to, make sure that you're not summarizing the short story and telling about what happens in it. You're only using what's relevant, whatever's important to your focus, whether it's the feminist, the Marxist, or the psychological. Okay. All right, let me try to share my screen and see what happened the last time. It was like 20 minutes. And then when I looked, I was analyzing the writing, going through it, and there was nothing there. The screen was blank. So I hope this doesn't happen this time. In this case, let's see, it should be here. All right. All right, it looks like it's there. So it should be there. So here, the way I get started in James Joyce's short story entitled. So this is refer to this when you're writing your piece, or even when you're posting on the discussion board. All of these things will apply. So you're going to need to, introduce the short story. It's an introduction. And so you're going to need the author's name, the title of it, when it was published. And then after that, you just refer to the author's last name. That's all you need to do. So here you see, I have James Joyce's short story. It's entitled Eveline. It's in quotation marks. And then it's published in 1914. And then I get right into what I'm going to be talking about in my writing, in my piece. Joyce exposes the imbalance of power between men and women through the protagonist, Eveline. So that's what I'd like you to do. Just get right into it. Okay, don't talk about a feminist theory or Marxist theory and what it is, or don't summarize the story. I read a story and the father was tyrannical and he wanted to such and such. You're always using names as if you know these people personally. So throughout this writing, I'm going to be referring to Eveline using her name, not the character or the woman or the girl, okay? So, and some of that sort of helps you in writing it, because as you're reading your short story, you should be like bonding with a particular character and trying to figure out what's wrong with them and why. And that's where those best ideas formulate and originate, right? Is, as you're reading, and let me backpedal a little bit. When you're choosing a short story, you want to choose one that you really like. So you might go through a few of them and you're just not getting much luck. And then you hit one, you say, oh yeah, this is it. So definitely look through, there's quite a few on the LibGuide, and pick one that you think that you'll like. There are some shorter ones too. So if you're not like much of a reader and you don't, not that I'm encouraging you to, sometimes we need some shortcuts. So if you prefer a shorter one, that's fine too. There's some, but you want to give it a chance, because sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get immersed in it as well. So, all right, so here we go. So that's the beginning. So that's how I would like you to begin. And then from the beginning, because that's where we start with Eveline, and she's at the end of her life and she's defeated. And these are all my words based on my interpretation. She's leaning into the dusty curtains and staring out the window. And I had already taken out quotes that I liked that jumped out at me from this story. I already knew that I was going to be taking like a more feminist kind of approach to it. So that's what I'd also like, if that works for you. I'd like you to try that. Like when you're reading this short story, take out the quotes that you think you'll be using if you already have your theory in mind. So if it's something like Marxist and you're going to be taking more of that kind of a slant, then you already have in mind your focus, so that there's certain passages that would really be great pieces of evidence supporting your ideas about this Marxist interpretation of it, okay? So, and in her nostrils was this is the quote. So of course, remember, it's my quote, it's integrated in with my ideas, but this is taken directly from the story. Okay, so it's in quotation marks. It has to be, okay? And in her nostrils was the odor of dusty creatine. All right, and then I have my citation, Joyce, and the date, okay? There's no page number because there isn't a page number. So if there isn't a page number, you're not going to put one in there. In this description, one gets the sense, so I gave you the description. Now I'm going to explain it a little bit, okay? In this description, one gets the sense that Eveline is dusty, stagnant, and has endured the ravages of time. These are all my ideas based on the author's description of Eveline, okay? She is described as tired. Okay, this is taken from the story because it's significant. It was, I think, in the first opening statement, he describes Eveline as tired. So it's an important word. And time, this was later on in the story, but I also thought these two went well together. And time is running out, and still Eveline remains trance-like, reflecting on her life as if it happened to someone else. And see, there's my citation. Any words I took from the story, I put in quotation marks. The rest are all my ideas. So that's what I like to do. I like to weave in, and that's what I would like you to try to do, is to weave in those quotes into your ideas. So my point is, you already have your ideas, and you're just using the pieces, phrases and words and statements from the story to support what you're saying, okay? All right, so Eveline remains, there we go. So according to feminist scholars, so now I'm going to be throwing in my feminist piece here, okay? So I've already set it up. Look, okay? I didn't start with, you see the difference? So I'm not going to start with the feminist piece. The story is the main actor here. So the story is the focus. And so the whatever theory you choose, is going to be, just is secondary to the main actor. So Eveline she's the star. I'm trying to diagnose her and interpret her in a certain way. And so I don't want you to start with the theory and describing what it is, because that's too disjointed. You start with your character, because that's what it should be about. So, according to a feminist scholar, Simone de Beauvoir, author of The Second Sex, and then so you see, I have the date, I have the name, the author, okay, and there's the page number, because there is a particular page number. I got this from a book. This particular book is close to 900 pages, okay, and I've read it a few times, but the evidence that I used from the book is only on a couple pages. I only have like maybe 3 quotes that I'm using in this, 2-page paper to support this feminist kind of interpretation of Eveline, okay? But so just keep that in mind, whatever you're reading. You're going to be going, there's an overview. Let me go back to this. So there is an overview of the different theories, literary criticisms, the Marxist, the psychoanalytical, and the feminist. In Purdue, the OWL Purdue. But I want you to then go to the library and see if you can find more, they'll be able to help you as well. They can point you in the right direction. So you can read a little bit more in depth about if it's feminist you're choosing or Marxist. Again, this is a very short piece. So don't get overwhelmed. Just find something that you could use, like a couple quotes that will support, that particular theory. Okay, you're not going to be. This isn't a long scholarly paper that you're writing. All right. So don't get too overwhelmed by it. Just take whatever evidence from it that you can use, like I've done here. Okay, so all right, so this particular quote was so relevant to the story. A woman is regarded as a mystery in herself, and these 3 dots here, as you can see, are I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the quote itself was very long, the statement, so I piecemealed it. I just took what I needed from it. So you can do that. This just means there's other words in between here, but I chose not to use them. But again, it has to make sense, okay? So a woman is regarded as a mystery in herself, ... Her body is not for her a clear expression of herself. She feels alienated from it. This was on page 269. So I have my page number, period, after. Now I'm going to go on and explain that further. Eveline is out of touch with her potential and is more of an observer rather than a participant in events. She stares out. So what do I mean by that? Now elaborate a little more on it, okay? She's staring out the window, noticing the changes, recalling how it was once lively, and she and her neighborhood friends played. And now I'm going to go into the father, okay? That memory is overshadowed by the fear of a violent father who would hunt them in out of the field with his black thorn stick. This particular quote I took from the story. So all this is leading up. Everything here is leading up to this one quote, and I already knew I was going to use it because it really exemplified the father-daughter relationship, and it definitely shows that Eveline is, you know, it's like a horror show. She's growing up pretty much in this with a violent father, and of course during the day in the 1900s it wasn't so uncommon, and this was Dublin, Ireland. But again, I'm not going to go into all that history. I don't need to. This is, again, I'm just focusing on showing the reader Eveline's, like a snapshot of Eveline's situation. Okay, I think I do touch on the Dublin thing just a little bit. And so that's what I want you to do. Take out passages that jump out, the quotable, that just jump out at you, that you know you're probably going to be using in your paper. So here we go again. And I did what I don't want you to do. I actually repeated. There is the sense. Try to vary your transitional words and phrases. I didn't need to do that twice, so I should have come up with something else here. But there is the sense that Eveline is perpetually trapped in herself. Now again, these are all my own words. She's at the mercy of others, destined to do what society and her father planned for her. Now, when she's told to resist, she must leave her home. She looks out at her familiar objects. Again, this is in quotes. This means I took it directly from the story. Mentioning the yellow picture of the priest from Melbourne, her father's schoolmate. And this is significant, so I wanted to use this because it really shows the relationship between she and her father. Eveline thinks about how she never learned his name, the priest's name, hinting at an unresolved conflict with her father, a desire to know him as a human being. He, on the other hand, is the archetypical 20th century Dublin father, restrained and distant, baffled by the complexity of what Beauvoir refers to as a woman's mysterious nature. And now I'm going to give a quote from Beauvoir. Again, I had already had this quote, okay? And I knew I was going to be using it. To say that women is mysteries, to say that not that she is silent, but that her language is not heard. She is there, but hidden beneath the veils, okay? So as you can see, that supports what I said about this idea that, you know, in Eveline's case, her father believes that, you know, females are inferior and should be pretty, look pretty and be seen and not heard, okay? Eveline, I'm going to go on a little more about this. Eveline is silent and compliant in a patriarchal family. And there's that term that I said you're going to be using. I didn't, actually, that was in the PowerPoint. Sorry. There are certain terms that you'll be using. So if you choose, and it's in the PowerPoint, so if you want to refer to that, you can see. So in this case, with feminist, if you're doing a feminist interpretation, there's certain words that are associated with feminist, patriarchal, misogynist, subjugation, etc. And some of the terms you might need to look up, but you're going to be using those terms. So in this case, it's in a patriarchal family. The female is considered inferior and must rely on the men. Now that's kind of a common understanding. You know, if you looked up patriarchal, this isn't from the dictionary, but I just kind of gave an overview of what a patriarchal family is as it relates to Eveline. As you can see now, I back it up with what Eveline does to support that. She works outside the home at stores, but she does all the domestic work. She earns money and hands it over to her father. She tends to all domestic chores along with the care of her brothers. So all of this is supportive of that patriarchal family. These are specific examples I'm giving you, or giving the reader, to support that she herself, Eveline, lives in a patriarchal kind of family. So what does she do? She imagines an opportunity to sever her ties, to start a new life. Now I'm going to be talking about Frank, because the whole story really kind of revolves around this regret that she has, that she didn't, it's sort of like a regret, but honestly, I don't know, but that she didn't leave with Frank, the sailor. So he wants her to sail away with him to Buenos Aires. She weighs all the possibilities. The notion of leaving her father behind is too conflicting. So it's that excuse again, her father. She can't leave behind her father. But really, it's that, you know, if you want to do a psychoanalytical kind of approach to it, you would say that she is too your whole paper would focus on her anxiety levels and that brainwashing that she's not good enough, and she wouldn't be, she could never leave even if she wanted to, because she doesn't really know what she wants. So if you were taking a more psychoanalytical kind of approach, and that was the theory that you would be applying, that's what you would be focusing on, okay? So I go on and on. On the one hand, she wants to feel safe. She no longer has her brothers to protect her or take the brunt of their father's wrath. She felt, so this is the important part that shows that, okay? So I took this quote out. It's in quotation marks because it's taken directly from the story. She felt herself in danger of her father's violence. And there's my citation. The period always goes after. And as you notice, when you introduce a quote, like you use the colon, okay? But that's only, the sentence that comes before that quote must be a complete sentence, okay? Also, marriage to Frank can offer Eveline what she cannot obtain herself. And then I need to give you another example of that, okay? And I'm using my feminist Beauvoir. So this was my other quote. I think I took 3 quotes from her. As a man holds a privileged place in the world, ... Again, that just tells you that there's other information there, but I piecemealed it and just took what I needed out of that long statement. Very often he keeps the woman, or at least helps her out. In marrying her, he gives her social status. I mean, that fits so perfectly with Eveline, okay, in her situation, right? So that's what you're doing. You're looking at whatever theory you've chosen, and you're just you're finding quotes that would fit perfectly with your main character and their situation. Eveline believes Frank can give her respectability. This word is important. It was taken directly from the short story, because that's one of the reasons she doesn't leave, or she gives for a reason for not leaving, is that she taking off with a sailor, they would talk about her and she would shame the family. So that word respectability in this case is important. That's why it's in quotation marks and taken directly from the story. But then Eveline considers the risks and the shame. What would they say of her in the stores when they find out that she has run away with a fellow? And here I support it further with an actual quote from the story, okay? A longer quote, not just the word. Eveline, now old with a little time left, stews over her indecisions and fragments of a half-life, one she barely partook in. Again, these are all my words here, okay? And it's all leading up to this one quote. And I introduce it, see the colon there. Eveline thinks of it now when it is too late, when ironically she has no more opportunity to offer an opinion. And then from the story, everything changes. Now she was going away like the others to leave her home. Okay, so as you can see, all of this is really these are my ideas, just supported with some evidence from the story. Okay, so you know more than you think, let's put it that way. When Eveline could have sailed away with Frank, who begs her to come, she does not move. She's brainwashed in a sense and can't. I wanted to end my short piece with, I liked, you don't have to, but I really liked the way it ended, how she was almost non-responsive when the boat's sailing away and he's begging her to come with her. And so what I say here leads up to that quote. I felt like there was a brainwashing going on. She's brainwashed in a sense. She can't break the ties from a restrictive lifestyle that kept her in a subservient role. And there's the quote to support what I'm saying. Her eyes gave him no sign of love or farewell or recognition, suggesting an inability to feel, as Eveline is too numb to think for herself after years of being told what and how to behave and think. All right, so there's a little bit of the psychological in there too, which I happen to like psychological as well. So that's one thing to remember too, that when you choose a theory, it's definitely going to, they'll overlap. So you might get some psychological in there, or, you're discussing poverty, but just remember that you need to choose one theory and use that interpretation. That's going to be the driver for your writing. So I'm quite thirsty. Hopefully that was helpful, and hopefully this recording comes out okay, because I swear this is probably like the 5th time. And that's why I nixed the PowerPoint, because it just wasn't working, and decided to do it this way. And I thought the writing and going through it, this is what I would have done in class if it wasn't online. So again, email me with any questions you have. You have time. March 26th is, you do have some time. So if you wanted to send me something, if you want to start, and then, or you have a draft in mind or some ideas you sketched out and you want to email me, I can give you some advice. You can go to the library, Hoffman Library, the remote tutors, English tutors are there, and they're excellent. I'm one of them, actually. And just see who's available, and you can send them a draft or just any questions. They know me, so you can tell them who your instructor is. And you could do it that way, and they're extremely helpful, really. It's a conflict of interest. I'm not really supposed to tutor any of my students. But again, if you want to send me something through the email, that's completely fine. And there's plenty of English tutors available. What else? So I think that's it. Hopefully you're okay with the first assignment, which is due actually Wednesday. I did get a couple emails. There is a recording, the first recording, where I explain. It really is pretty simple, the assignment itself, but I understand people still get a little confused. So, but hopefully it's clarified well on the first recording, if you want to click on that. If not, I can send you a Zoom link, we can talk about it, or you can email me, and I can just, I have a little cut and paste of the instructions, and so I can just forward those to you as well, which are actually on the assignment. But again, I understand people are busy, and it gets hectic. That's things are a little nutty, getting back to normal hopefully soon. Alrighty, I'm gonna now sign off, and again, email me with any questions, and have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.